Hey everyone, this is Zach with 8020 Media, here today with a video on the best Ford engines of all time. Ford has been around for over 120 years, has built more than 75 unique engine designs with hundreds of different engine variants within those main engine designs. So ultimately, it's a lot of engines to pick and choose from throughout the years at Ford. There have been a number of problematic and more disastrous engines. And on the other hand, Ford has built more than a couple handfuls of awesome, incredible engines over the years. So it's really hard to narrow it down to a short list of a few of the best Ford engines of all time. But nonetheless, we've gone through all of the Ford engines and picked a few of what we believe to be some of the best Ford engines of all time. With that said, let's go ahead and jump in and discuss some of Ford's best engines. This list is in no particular order, but starting things off at number 1, we have the Ford 427 FE V8 engine. The 427 FE was only produced for a very short time period from 1963 until 1967, but despite its short production run, the 427 FE is often considered one of Ford's greatest engines, and there are really a number of reasons for that, and one of them boiling down to the fact that the 427 FE was really purpose-built and designed for NASCAR racing back at a time that Ford was very successful in NASCAR, and so that was really the main purpose of the 427 FE. But due to NASCAR rules, it did have to be in production vehicles, so the engine did find its way into a handful of production vehicles in that 1963 to 1967 ballpark. The 427 FE was responsible for powering the 1960s Ford GTs to the 1-2-3 finish at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1966. So obviously, for that reason alone, you could already say the 427 FE certainly deserves a spot as one of Ford's greatest engines of all time. However, it doesn't even stop there with the Ford 427 V8 engine. There was even another variant of the 427, which was often referred to as the 427 single overhead cammer. This engine never actually made it into any production vehicles. It was supposed to be a more advanced 427 for use in NASCAR. However, it was ultimately banned by NASCAR for a number of reasons, one of them including the fact that it never actually made it into a production vehicle. However, it did go on to have an incredibly successful career despite getting banned in NASCAR. It became a very popular drag racing and top fuel engine, with the 427 Cammer actually powering a top fuel dragster to the Triple Crown, which is the first time and still the only time that has ever been completed in the top fuel class. Very impressive engine for a number of reasons. Ultimately, this is something that really has a lot of legacy and a lot of wins, so ultimately the 427 FE is certainly deserving of its spot as one of Ford's greatest engines of all time. Moving on to number 2, for one of the next greatest Ford engines of all time, we have the Ford Barra inline-6 engine. This is not to be confused with the Ford V8 Barra that was made in Canada. The inline-6 variant was actually produced in Victoria, Australia, and is a 4-liter inline-6 design and was also turbocharged for some variants of the Ford Barra engine. The 4-liter turbocharged inline-6 is just a very capable design and has really lived up to that reputation. It's able to make 600 plus wheel horsepower on the stock bottom end without having to open the engine at all. If you build the bottom end, the Barra is pretty easily able to handle 1,000 plus wheel horsepower, and there's even an example of it on a drag racing car where the Ford Barra engine is making 2,000 plus horsepower, revving to 10,000 plus RPMs, and that is actually done on the stock block as well as the stock cylinder head. Very impressive results in performance from the Ford Barra inline-6. Ultimately, the point is the Ford Barra inline-6 engine is just as good as some of those other greatest of all time inline-6 engines, and so for that reason, the Ford Barra definitely deserves some respect and really having a bigger reputation in the automotive community, and especially the aftermarket scene, due to its incredible capability and awesome strength when tuned and modified. Moving on to number 3 on the list for the greatest Ford engines of all time, we have the Ford 7.3-liter Powerstroke diesel engine. Now, I know some people might comment and say this one isn't fair to include. since the 7.3 Powerstroke was actually manufactured by Navistar, or also known as Navistar International, as they built the International trucks. While the 7.3 Powerstroke was built by Navistar, it was also a joint operation between Ford engineers and Navistar. When it came to the 7.3 Powerstroke variant, it was Ford and Ford engineers who had the ultimate say in the engine design and manufacturing. So Ford did still have something to do with the process of manufacturing and producing the 7.3 Powerstroke. Outside of all of that, the 7.3 Powerstroke is just such a great diesel engine, and one that's really up there with the 5.9 Cummins as often being considered one of the best, most reliable light-duty diesel engines of all time. It would be fair to say that compared to a lot of modern diesel engines, the 7.3 Powerstroke is a little bit underpowered by modern standards. However, it's really just the incredible reliability and the fact that the 7.3 Powerstroke came before the more challenging times of emissions and emission systems and emissions equipment. It's really just a very simple engine that continues to go and go. Many of these 7.3 Powerstroke diesel engines do make it well past 400,000 miles without any major issues or rebuilds along the way. And even after 20, 30 years, the 7.3 Powerstroke is still a popular engine on roads and farms today. And a lot of that really just boils down to its success with reliability, longevity, and just overall durability of the engine. And that is ultimately the main reason it makes it on the list of one of the best Ford engines of all time. Last but not least on the list, at number 4, we have the Ford 5.0 Coyote V8 engine. So the 5.0 Coyote was initially developed and introduced for the 2011 model year, and the 5.0 Coyote is still in production to this day. The engine is currently on its 4th generation, and Ford has made a number of really great updates to the engine over the years. However, that's not to take anything away from the original or older Coyote variants. All of these 5-liter V8s have been incredible engines that deliver an awesome balance of performance, reliability, longevity, as well as aftermarket support and aftermarket potential. So ultimately, the 5.0 Coyote really has a lot going for it. Looking at the newest Gen 4 engine released in 2024, that is able to produce up to 500 horsepower and 420 pound-feet of torque. So very impressive, achieving that 100 horsepower per liter from its naturally aspirated design. On top of that, talking about tuning and aftermarket modifications, the Gen 3 and newer engines, so looking at 2018 and up, they're easily able to make 500 plus wheel horsepower with just a couple basic bolt-on mods without needing any kind of forced induction. Even the older variants that were a little less powerful can still achieve that 500 wheel horsepower mark, or at least right in that ballpark. It's just going to take a little bit more to get them there, but nonetheless, very incredible to achieve 500 wheel horsepower naturally aspirated with just a couple simple bolt-on mods and tuning. And on top of that, the stock bottom end is able to hold 700 to 800 plus wheel horsepower without any issues. As a final comment, the 5.0 Coyote is a mass production engine that's found in tons of different vehicles. It's been around since 2011. That reason alone makes it a great engine, especially when you combine that with the fact that it's very reliable, offers great performance, and again, awesome aftermarket support and potential. Anyway, guys, that wraps up our video for today. If you appreciated the content, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and check out the description below for more. Thanks, everyone.